Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Reese, and for this project I will be looking at how the concepts of knowledge organization intersect with my personal collection of games. The universe under consideration is the bulk of my collection of games. While the earliest original publication date for any trademarked game present here is 1938, and some of these games like cribbage have their historical roots as far back as the 17th century, all of these particular instances or copies were produced and purchased during my lifetime, so I'm considering my own lifespan as the most reasonable date range. The range of materials includes role-playing games, books about games, card games, board games, and a category that I'm choosing to call gaming accoutrement, which includes subcategories like component holders, replacement pieces, figurines for role-playing game, and dice. There are so many sets of 20-sided dice hiding in these shelves. Scope. All games in this collection were either purchased by or gifted to me during my lifespan. The main factor establishing scope for this little universe is that these are all games that I personally enjoy, that I believe have enduring value, or that I think represent a unique gaming mechanic required to make the collection reasonably representative of board gaming as a hobby. There are a large but finite number of major board gaming mechanics that games are built around, such as resource management, drafting, and luck pushing. My hope in building this collection has been to fully represent that range of game mechanics without too much repetition. This scope also speaks to what is not included. These are all physical tabletop games. There are no video games here, but another collector might include those. Uniqueness. This collection is unique because it has been curated by me according to my own personal tastes and the parameters I've set for its scope. Thousands of games are released every year, and I regularly update and weed this collection. While I'm sure other collectors have similar collections, the combination of subjective and objective collection development criteria make each game collection a unique representation of the hobby and the larger gaming universe. Method of organization and guiding principles. There are several KO guiding principles present in my collection development and organization strategies. I believe the two most notable are non-strict hierarchical taxonomies, mostly for the role-playing games, and controlled vocabularies / authorized access points for the board games. Looking first at the taxonomies, everything here is related to the universe of games. Subcategories of games in my method of organization include role-playing games, books about games, board games, card games, and gaming accoutrement. As an example, all of my role-playing games are organized together on the shelf. That subcategory breaks down further. I split those role-playing games into Dungeons & Dragons materials and non-Dungeons & Dragons materials. The Dungeons & Dragons materials are then split into official materials and third-party materials. The official materials are then further subdivided into the following categories: player guides, game master guides, monster manuals, campaign setting guides, and adventure guides. This taxonomy is useful for determining what materials I want to purchase and how I want to organize them on the shelf for ease of retrieval. However, this isn't a true taxonomy. The subcategories are not all at the same level of specificity. Additionally, subcategories and individual instances are not always exclusive. A resource like Tales from the Yawning Portal is strictly an adventure guide, and therefore easy to place and retrieve. However, a resource like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is both a game master guide and a player guide, making its shelf order more complicated. The guiding principle for collecting, weeding, and organizing my board games is the gaming mechanics upon which each game's rule set is built. I consider these game mechanics as authorized access points of a sort, based on a controlled vocabulary used to describe the mechanics present in their play and rule sets. Over the years, I've built my own controlled vocabulary for this specific universe of board games. While it's based on conversations, online forums, and a pretty specific controlled vocabulary from the website Board Game Geek, my own controlled vocabulary is bespoke to fit my collection specifically and is going to differ from that of another collector. In my controlled vocabulary, semi-cooperative and fully cooperative are separate game mechanics. In a smaller collection, those mechanics would likely collapse into one controlled term. In a collection similar to mine, another collector may use synonymous terms from their own vocabulary. As a very specific example, the game Horrified is marked with the following authorized access terms from my personal controlled vocabulary for gaming mechanics: fully cooperative play, resource management, variable player powers, variable setup, and games containing mini-games. The first two terms from that list are very common among game collectors. The next two are lifted directly from the website Board Game Geek, and the final term is actually a bespoke one that I find incredibly useful, but I've never heard anyone else use. Having a controlled vocabulary for mechanics allows me not just to conceptualize the play of these games, but it also guides my collection development and helps me co-locate similar games for groups that enjoy certain kinds of mechanics.